Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today, on the other end of the Zoom, am I pointing in the right direction? Who knows? We'll know when I put this live. Jack Toledano is with us once again. Greetings, my friend. How are you doing today on this wonderful Monday afternoon?
Awesome. I don't normally do these on a weeknight, but this is great after a rough day of work. So these night sessions, I love it. So
There you go. That's right.
I'm
So I
excited.
incorrectly said afternoon before. It's actually evening.
Yeah,
It's after 8
no,
o'clock
it
here.
is night where we are.
Yeah, exactly. So we know that by the time you guys all see this, could be morning, could be afternoon. Who knows? Because everybody's watching from all over the place, and we hope everybody's safe. For all of our viewers in the U.S., hope everybody's doing okay out there. And it's an absolutely crazy time here in the U.S. right now. But that's a topic for another day, another channel. Today it's all about the music and our favorite songs of Manowar, U.S. power metal pioneers. I mean, I was really, when I was putting my list together, I was like, you know what? Manowar might be like one of the first ever power metal bands when you really think about it, like power
Agree.
metal like we know it. And often, I don't know, a lot of times I forget to like throw them into the conversation. I always think like early power metal, I'm like, yeah, Halloween and maybe a little bit Iron Maiden. So, but man, Manowar is that's the blueprint right there, right?
Oh yeah, agreed. I
Yeah. So
believe it's bands like um, Hammerfall that basically took the cue from Manowar, and do what they do because of bands like Manowar.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So this was actually Jack's suggestion to do this show, and the first thing I said to Jack when we were agreed to do this, I said, I listened to a lot of Manowar when I was younger, but I really have not listened to much of them at all in a long time. So for me, I had to go back and revisit a lot of these albums for the first time in a long time, and it's like a lot of it's like you get an old baseball glove. It's like even if you haven't worn it like 10 or 15 or 20 years, you put it back on and it feels comfortable. A lot of like, especially the early part of the catalog, as I was listening to them over the last week or so, I was like, oh yeah, I remember these songs. I remember these albums. This is pretty
Well,
damn good. And then a lot of the new stuff is pretty good as well.
yes.
You know how we do these things, guys. Top 10. We're going to start at number 10, work our way to number 1. Jack is going to kick us off with his number 10, and then we'll throw out some honorable mentions at the end. All right, Jack, what do you got for number 10?
Okay, so just to start off, Pete was talking about the older part of the Manowar catalog. I'm focused more in the middle of the catalog, which is where pretty much all my favorite Manowar classics came from. But number 10 is actually the one representative off of Warriors of the World. It is a song called Fight Until We Die. And basically, how I came to learn of Manowar is, for a long time I was taking songs off of iTunes, paying for songs off of
Of
iTunes,
course.
but I would get all these suggestions because of the bands that I like, Priest, Maiden, Saxon, you name it, and they would put these suggestions up, and I'd click into a few of these Manowar songs, and I really liked them, and that was one of them, and that song is stuck with me at number 10.
There you go. It's funny in doing so many of these types of shows with so many different people. It's always interesting to see how people lean on the catalog that they started with, right?
Right.
So, for you started right around the middle of the catalog. I started with the early part of the catalog. I've done shows recently where people start with the more recent stuff, and even like yourself. Remember we did that Accept show way back? You really started getting into Accept with the more recent catalog. So it's always interesting how these things work out, and you can't force it the other way because you got to be true to what you like and what you love.
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
Exactly.
So my number 10, I am going to go to the Triumph of Steel album for Spirit Horse of the Cherokee,
Okay.
which is a damn exciting song. It gallops. It does everything that Manowar does. It's got that epic feel. It's melodic. Eric Adams, signature vocal wailing. I just think it's a great song from a very solid record, I think.
Right.
And that comes in at number 10 for me.
Oh, very nice. Okay. So number 9 is another. This was a song that I actually discovered on XM Radio 38, Ozzy's Boneyard. Great catchy title. And basically it sums up the Manowar basically in a title, Black Wind, Fire, and Steel, or Fighting the World.
That's a really good one.
Yes.
So my number 9 is also from Fighting the World.
Okay.
And it's going to be the title track, Fighting the World. You know, it's funny. When that album came out, I was already very familiar with the band. I had everything they had done up until then. And I remember that album came out, and the first thing I thought was like, okay, that cover art looks just like Destroyer by Kiss. And then you start listening to the album, and a lot of like the backing vocals and the choruses have that kind of like Kiss feel to them. It's like almost like they were purposefully going for that, yet they never ever mentioned it.
But it's a very good reason why those album covers look alike. It's actually the same artist that did Destroyer and Love Gun.
Yeah, was it Ken Kelly or something like that?
Ken Kelly, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and they used him for the rest of the catalog.
Right.
That was the first time they worked with him, and they used him from then on. But I think "Fighting the World" is a great song, and I know a lot of like hardcore Manowar fans who followed them from the first album were very disappointed with that album. I think it's a fun album. It's got a lot of good anthems on it. It's not quite as kind of heavy as some of the stuff that came before, but I think it has great songs. And you know, my guess is we'll probably be revisiting that album again throughout this top 10, but we'll see how it goes. So,
well, the funny thing about that album is I read up about Manowar's biography, and basically that album they signed with Atlantic, and you can definitely tell from the earlier albums to Atlantic and further how better the production is from Fighting the World and on.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, if you get signed to Atlantic Records, right, they want you to sell albums, and they probably influenced them to, you know, make some of the songs a little bit more commercial sounding. But you know what? They're all good songs on that album. It's a very strong record, I think. So,
okay.
All right, number 8, back to you.
Okay, number 8. So before we get into that, you know, we always talk about the Buffalo Wing coming from Buffalo, and the cheesesteak coming from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is a Long Island iced tea. So from Long Island.
From Long Island.
But anyway.
Now is every ingredient in that iced tea from Long Island, Jack?
No, unfortunately.
It doesn't count then. That's all right. I'll give it to you.
All right. But anyway, so number 8, I actually bought this album at a flea market, the CD at a flea market at one of the local train stations. They have them every so often. And I'm flipping through the CDs, and I had just started to listen to Manowar, and I see the album Kings of Metal. I'm like, oh, maybe I should pick this up. Turns out it is, I think it's their best, and a lot of people think it's their best. And I have a few songs off of Kings of Metal in my top 10, and this one is very, very simple title, Hail and Kill.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is actually a pretty strong album. Another one of my more favorite albums of them from the later part of the catalog. That's a good one. Where are we at? Number 8. Let's go to Sign of the Hammer for Thor, the Powerhead.
All right.
You know, Thor's my favorite superhero. That's a very strong, obviously that whole album is all about all that kind of stuff. And I think that's just a great, great power metal anthem from the band. It's got a catchy chorus, heavy guitar riffs, man. You got Joey's nimble bass runs and stuff. That's very cool too.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yes, Thor is very familiar to both of us being Met fans. So
that's right, Noah Syndergaard.
Yes, but
that's right.
We'll be talking about some relatives of Thor a little bit later.
There you go.
Later on.
Later on.
So my number 7 is actually the only title track in my list. I love the actual guitar tone, for that opening riff. It's the title track of The Lord of Steel from 2012.
That's right. Another good one. Good one. All right, my number 7. Coming from what could be my favorite Manowar album, Into Glory Ride.
Okay.
The Gates of Valhalla.
All right.
I mean, that album and Hail to England have these like really cool like epics that I think, you know, Manowar did such a great job early on of doing these kind of like these moody epics that would start off kind of atmospheric and sometimes a little bit acoustic bits here and there, and all of a sudden all the sledgehammer riffing comes in and Eric Adams start, you know, wailing to the heavens. And that's, you know, that it was tough trying to figure out which songs off of Into Glory Ride I was going to put in this top 10, because again, you have your favorite album or two, you can litter the whole top 10 with all the songs from an album or two, and I didn't want to go that route. So it was hard kind of trying to figure out, all right, which tracks do I want to pick off of some of these albums? But that's such a great song, one of my favorites from that album. So Gates of Valhalla, number 7 for me.
Very cool. I mean, I also did try to mix it up from different albums, so hence I only took 3 from Kings of Metal. But this next one is also off of The Lord of Steel, and to me it should be like their theme song. And I even wore this shirt for the occasion. This is I think you know who this is, the Ultimate Warrior.
I was going to say, it looks like the old Ultimate / Dingo Warrior mask or face paint.
Christmas present. But anyway, this is, wore this shirt strictly for the song Man of Warriors.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We fight for metal. I love that whole.
They had so many songs that were like that. You know, if you go back in their catalog and count all the songs that have like metal in the title, there's like so many of them. It's crazy.
I tried to limit that as well, but Man of Warriors out.
Yeah.
Great tune.
Yeah, it is. Very cool choice. All right, what are we at? 6, right?
Right.
Let's go back to Fight in the World.
Okay.
Defender. Orson Welles.
Oh,
come on, epic, man. It's so good. Ride like the wind. Oh man, it's such a great epic song. I remember I used to play that all the time when that album came out.
Right. Okay.
There you go.
Cool. So my number 5 is actually also off of Fighting the World, and this song is a little outside the norm for Manowar. It doesn't really, there's, you know, no sword and sorcery, Norse mythology. And you know what? I got to tell you, I feel this way sometimes when I hear other people blaring their music that I don't like. So I'd like to blow your speakers.
I knew you were going to say that one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Love that tune.
Now that song is something Kiss would do.
Yes.
Right?
Like I Love It Loud, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 5, how about the title track to their first album, Battle Hymn from Battle Hymns.
Yeah.
Another, again, I love their epic, like lengthier tunes from those first couple albums, and that's just so powerful. And just some great guitar work from Ross the Boss, and great vocals. Killer tune. Epic power metal at its best, at its infancy, right? So.
Right, yeah.
All right, number 4, what do you got?
That Eric Adams and Joey DeMeo have stood the test of time and, you know, been there the whole time.
That's right, they have been. They have been.
And I haven't really talked about Joey DeMeo's bass playing, but freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, really good. And I mean, he's probably one of the faster players around. And I think it's, on almost every album he throws in like a little kind of bass solo. And he's a good songwriter too. That's right. You know, that's key.
I was just telling Sam's boyfriend about Flight of the Bumblebee.
Yep.
You know, he's into the whole Green Hornet thing. But now my question is, does he play with a pick, or is it that all with his fingers?
I thought he played with a pick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he does. But
that precision without it.
Yeah, I know, right? Wow. Yeah, it's some fast stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. No question.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 4, it's funny. It actually the title sounds like a sword and sorcery song, but it's actually, you know, just another, you know, metal message. You know, no one controls our goddamn lives. Return of the Warlord off of Louder Than Hell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good track. You got some keepers up here in the top of your list. Yeah, well, very cool.
I thought about it. I might as well just put out their very best that I really like, and you know.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Try not to worry too much about am I too much into the front of their catalog, the back of their catalog, you know. So I tried to be as fair as possible.
There you go. It's the only way to do it. I will say before I forget to say it that Manowar is probably one of the top 3 loudest bands I have ever seen in my life.
Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, so you have seen them.
I saw them at the Chance at Poughkeepsie, New York, back in
Oh,
like
wow.
on the Fighting the World tour.
Oh, wow.
Jack,
I,
man, you cannot even
wow.
imagine how loud.
Oh,
Unbelievable. I would say that concert and that what was the name of that tour that I'm drawing a complete blank. Megadeth, Dream Theater, Symphony X, Nevermore.
Gigantor?
Gigantor. I saw Gigantor at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center on the first Gigantor tour, and it
Wow.
was just like painfully loud. That show and the Manowar show were the 2 loudest concerts I've ever seen.
Wow.
Crazy,
Well,
crazy.
I think my loudest ever was the Iron Maiden at Hammerstein Ballroom when
Yeah.
first got back together. And I
Yep.
actually met your buddy at that show, Chris Caffery.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
It was always very loud at that venue, at Hammerstein. I think every show I've ever seen at Hammerstein was really, really loud.
My ears rang for
Someplace.
2 days after that. Literally. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore, I'll tell you.
No.
I'll tell you. All right, my number 4. How about more title track stuff? How about the title track to Hail, Hail to England?
Very
Another
nice. Yes.
great song. Yeah,
Very good. Yeah.
love that one a lot. Dig it, dig it. All right, number 3.
Okay. Now, for number 3, I'm going to dig into their Norse mythology for what I think is my favorite song dealing with Norse mythology. It's off of Gods of War. Now, listening to that album, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of ballads and little interludes into it. But I went for probably the heaviest song, and that got me pumping. The Sons of Odin. Love that song.
Yeah,
Great song.
that's one I really wanted to squeeze into my list here, and well, it's in my honorable mentions, and it's I realized after I put my whole list together, I'm like, damn, I
Right.
really would have liked to fit Sons of Odin in here somewhere. It's a
Right.
good one. Great chorus on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love the oh and the kind of the background choir.
Yep.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's the atmosphere and the bass, do 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 do. Really cool.
Very well done.
Yes.
Yes, indeedy. All right, my number 3. Let's go back to my favorite Into Glory ride. March for Revenge. Heavy, evil sounding. More excellent over the top screaming from Eric Adams. Just a really, really killer epic tune. They have a lot of those. Man, those couple albums have like the back end of each one of those albums have these 5 to 8 minute long epics that just like
Right.
great stuff. All right, the top 2. Here we go.
Okay, so the top 2, and this was very difficult for me. My top 2 could have been flip-flopped many times over, but right now my number 2 is off of Kings of Metal. I consider this a very complete song. It's very melodic, great riff, great vocals from Eric Adams, very catchy. Kingdom Come.
Yeah, that's a dynamite song.
Yes.
That's a dynamite song. Also in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
All right, my number 2. Back to Hail of England, or Hail to England, I should say, for a little Blood of My Enemies.
Blood of My Enemies.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's probably one of the first tunes I really, really got into by this band. That just want to raise your fist and scream and
Right.
killer stuff.
Well, I do that with Man of Warriors and Blow Your Speakers a lot. So
There you go. All right, drum roll. The number 1. What do you got?
Number 1, okay. Again, this starts with an incredible bass riff. I just love that. It's just so incredible. And Blood of the Kings off of Kings of Metal.
There you go. That's a very good one. My number 1. Going to go all the way back to the first album. Got to have something on my list with metal in the title, right? How about a little Metal Days?
Metal Days, okay.
Such a great kick-ass anthem, and kind of a very different song for them because that's more of kind of like a traditional speed metal type of song,
Right.
less of the kind of epic sword and sorcery type of thing that they do, Norse mythology. It's more just a crunchy heavy metal rocker. Almost like a hard, like it's almost like more of a hard rock tune than it is a metal tune, but it's got great guitar riffs, great vocals, and it's just, it's kind of like baby Manowar, still in their infancy before they really fully realized what it is they were going to do. But I dig that song a lot. That's for me, it's a really strong album too. So Metal Days, my number one.
Okay.
All right. I'm sure you got some honorable mentions, right?
Yes. So yes, I do have some honorable mentions from, unfortunately I didn't have too much from the first 4 albums, but, off of the first album, Death Tone, Manowar, Dark Avenger, you mentioned Battle Hymn.
Yep.
What else? You said Gates of Valhalla. Off of Hail to England, Kill with Power.
Yeah, Kill with Power is great. Die.
Yep. Off of Sign of the Hammer, there's the song Guyana, which almost cracked my top 10. Yeah.
That almost made mine too. That is a terrific song, actually. Yep.
Fighting the World, that's an honorable mention. The title track to Kings of Metal, which almost made it. Yep. Unfortunately, that got bumped by Hail and Kill. I had to listen to them side by side to say, okay, which one edges the other out. Always sad to do that, but so off of Triumph of Steel, you have the 28-minute Achilles, Agony, and Ecstasy.
Yeah.
Metal Warriors, The Demon's Whip, which,
Ironically, I had all of those in my honorable mentions as well. I mean, well, granted, the one song takes up a whole side of vinyl, basically, right? It's just got the 28-minute long song, which is, Achilles, Agony, and Ecstasy in 8 parts, which is pretty damn cool for the band to do something like that. That's not the norm for them to do this big long epic like that. I mean, that's really epic.
But so I mentioned a bunch. Would you like to mention some?
All right, so let's see. Well, you mentioned from Battle Hymns, Manowar, Born to Live Forevermore, Fast Talker, or Fast Taker, I should say. From Into Glory Ride, Secret of Steel, Gloves of Metal, and the almost Black Sabbath-ish Hatred, which is a really, really great tune. From Hail to England, Army of the Immortals, and Bridge of Death are both really cool. Sign of the Hammer, Mountains, title track. You mentioned Guyana, which is great. The Oath. Fight in the World. I think we mentioned Everything, Violence and Bloodshed, Holy War, Black Wind, Fire and Steel, which you had on your list. Kings of Metal, Wheels of Fire, the title track, Kingdom Come, and Blood of the Kings. Really good. And then Gods of War, Sons of Odin, which we already talked about. So if you got any more, you can throw them out. If not,
Sure. Call to Arms, off of Warriors of the World. What else? There's actually a few very interesting songs, like Nessun Dorma. It's I think it's sung in Italian. Very, nice song. Very, very un-Manowarish like.
Of course,
An American Trilogy, I thought that was pretty cool. That was more of a, ode to all things Americana, but it had a very interesting accompanying video on YouTube.
I haven't seen that.
Scantily clad ladies, but somebody obviously put the two together. But I don't know if that came from Manowar themselves, but very cool to check out. King of Kings. What else? Die for Metal. Touch the Sky. El Gringo, Annihilation. Off of The Lord of Steel. So those are some other ones for me.
Cool. What I forget? How many total albums do they have? Like 13 or something like that?
I believe they do. Yeah. Let me see. So 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's 11, and then there's 2 that they redid. They redid Battle Hymn, and they redid Kings of Metal.
Okay, I knew I saw the 13. So okay, so really 11 then. Okay,
Right,
It's a long career, man. I'll tell you.
I do have to ask you this question.
Yes.
Why is it that a band like Manowar isn't that famous in America, whereas they're much more famous in Europe?
I mean, that's a great question. I think, their early albums, which should have been huge, were only available here as imports.
Oh, okay.
And I think that did not help matters.
Oh, I see.
they didn't tour here a ton. And again, I think Manowar played the hot hand. I mean, they did play here,
Hmm.
but I mean, think back. I mean, I've seen a shitload of concerts in my life.
Right.
I can't think of a lot of instances where, you heard about Manowar playing in New York.
Right.
It's like, I think I've only seen them, I think, twice.
Hmm.
And it's not like Manowar came around every year like, Priest and Maiden and everybody else did.
Yeah.
Um, I, I don't know. I think, you know, the early mid 80s is when they should have been huge. And again, I
Right.
know they had a big following in a lot of countries, right? Not here.
Yeah.
But, Manowar should have been, and again, maybe they didn't want to, but Manowar should have been opening up for Priest and Maiden, doing tours with Sax and
Right.
all that kind of, I mean, they should have been regular bands on the scene here in the United States in 83, 84, 85, so on and so forth, and they weren't. And I think that hurt them. I think by the time they got signed to Atlantic for Fighting the World, maybe a little bit of momentum, but I think it was almost like it's a little too late for here.
Right. Yeah.
That's my guess.
Right.
But and then a lot of people talked about this. It's like they would come here very sporadically,
Mm.
like over the last like 20, 25 years or thereabouts. And, because they release albums every couple of years, but they would come here. If they decide to tour here, they would come here. They wouldn't play a lot of dates. So they play like maybe one club date in New York City, maybe something on the West Coast or whatever, a handful of dates. And
Right.
their shows were always expensive, like really expensive.
Yes, that's a very good point. Now, a
Right?
few years ago, I really wanted to see them. They were playing in New Jersey, possibly at the same place that we saw Blind Guardian in Symphony X. I forget the name of that.
Birch Hill. It was Birch Hill.
Birch
Yeah.
Hill, yes. I think they were playing there. And at the time, they were charging like 80, 90 a ticket.
Yeah, that's the last show I remember that they had booked at BB King's in New York City. And again, I don't remember the year. It was a while ago. It was like $80. That's a lot of money for BB King's for a
True.
small club, right? I mean, it's
Now, I feel like I'm in a better financial position. I can just piss that money away like anything, and I would go see them. But unfortunately, I wasn't in that position 3-4 years ago when they played there, and
yeah.
still trying to put my son through college.
Oh yeah, sure. I totally get it. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, especially, solid albums all throughout their catalog, but I think especially those early albums are like, a lot of that stuff is just classic metal that like any fan of, a lot of the bands we talked about should have been hugely into.
Right.
And they should have sold lots of copies. And, if they came here to tour, whether they were opening up for a bigger band or headlining on their own in smaller venues, I mean, I think it would have worked, but
Right.
it's like Manowar was almost like metal's best kept secret for a while.
Yeah.
And unless you were like a really true metal fan that would go seek out music, whether it was import or domestic releases, you didn't know about them.
Right.
So I don't know, but it's a good question. It's a good question.
Thank you. I am still holding out hope that they come and play the tri-state area so I can see them. But until that happens, I guess what I'll do is I'll just, I've been taking a lot of my concert DVDs off the shelf lately with the whole COVID situation.
I know, yeah.
I think I'm going to treat myself to one or two of their better ones. And
well, I will tell you what you may be able to do, and which probably will happen before you get to see Manowar. Ross the Boss, their original guitar player, has been touring regularly over the last couple of years, doing a full Manowar show, and he's got Michael LePond from Symphony X playing bass for him. Yeah, and I haven't seen him, but I know people who have, and they say the show is terrific, and it's just them playing all Manowar classics.
Wow, I will definitely have to check that
out.
So
that'll you'll probably have an easier time going to a Ross the Boss show than you will waiting for Manowar to come around again.
I know Ross the Boss recently played with KK Downing over in the UK. For a few of KK Downing's concerts. And
yep, exactly. So I would definitely be on the lookout for that whenever touring gets back underway again, which probably won't be in this calendar year, but maybe next year. So. Anyway, there you have it, guys. Top 10 songs for Manowar from Jack and myself. You know how it goes. In the comments below, list your top 10, your top 5, your top song, your top 20, whatever you want to do. No right or wrong answer here. We all have our favorites. We all love what we love. And I think we can all agree there's a lot of great gems in the Manowar catalog. And if you've never listened to Manowar before, well, pick out some of mine or Jack's, choices here. Go listen to them here on YouTube, and maybe you'll like them. If you like classic power metal, U.S. power metal with really powerful vocals and crunchy guitar riffs, amazing lead bass, and anthemic, memorable songs, I think you'll dig this. And if you love, lyrics on Norse mythology and fantasy and sword and sorcery and all that kind of stuff, it's over the top. It's it's fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Jack is coming back in 2 weeks for more power metal. We got Primal Fear coming up next.
Fear, yes.
That's right. So
I'm very excited for that.
are we doing top 10 songs or ranking the albums? I could do either.
We could talk about that, off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they have a new album coming out like imminently. So maybe we better just do the top 10 songs first, since we probably we may not get a chance to hear the new one. But I could be I'm a big fan, so I could do either or. We could do one first and one next, and
Yep.
So cool. All right. Well, Jack, thanks once again. We'll be talking to you soon. Everybody take care. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning with favorite album of the year for 2001. Don't want to miss it. All right. So have a good night, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.